Remembering the King of Pop, I'm Chris Jansing, live in Los Angeles outside the Staples Center, where a memorial service for Michael Jackson is about to get underway. We saw the motorcade make its way from Forest Lawn Cemetery. His family was there to say a private goodbye, and now a very public goodbye that some estimate may be seen by 1 billion people around the world. A send-off for an entertainer unlike anything that's ever been seen in history. Also covering it with us is our folks back in New York, David and Tamron. David, Tamron.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, even here in New York, Tamron, it's quite a scene. And, we knew today was going to strike a chord, good and bad, with so many people. I mean, whether it's on Twitter and the people were saying enough already, that this is a petapalooza, as one person suggests, which is, it's people have very strong feelings, but you can't deny that Michael Jackson is one of the most, he was one of the most famous people on the planet.
Well,
and his music was the most successful that, we've ever seen.
And David, that's a part of being extremely successful to the level of a Michael Jackson. People will have strong emotions about you one way or the other, but when the television ratings come out for this, and the number of people who've now bought, Us Weekly, Life and Style, all of these different magazines, and who've watched this cable news all day long and watched BET to see the old videos, I think that's the proof is in the pudding. Whatever you think about him, he was a magnet for our interests, about our culture. This is pop culture. And it's interesting, David, because, and Chris, you brought this up earlier about seeing the picture of Blanket, that's Michael Jackson's youngest son, in his hand being held by his older brother. I think when we go into the Staples Center and this starts, and when the audience gets a glimpse of these children, I think that may take the wind out of this, meaning that it will really come to home that this is a human being, this is a father, a son, a brother, and not just the icon, as Janet Jackson said at the BET Awards, Chris. Janet Jackson said to the world, he's an icon, to us, it's family, and when we see those 3 children today, if we get a glimpse of them, I think that really will be the gut check for all of us who are watching this spectacle, and it is a spectacle right now.
One of the things that the family surely will do is make this all of those things, remembering what a great musician he was, that he was a brother, that he was a son, that he was a father. They want to memorialize all these different parts of Michael Jackson. Courtney Hazlett has a ticket, is inside the Staples Center, and joins us now on the phone. Set the scene for us inside there, Courtney.
Hi there, Chris. They're asking everybody to please take their seats, and that the service is going to begin very, very shortly. Right now, most people, they are in their seats. Lots of camera phones out, fixed on the stage. The lights have come down somewhat. Any time that there's any sort of spotlight toward the stage, big cheers, everyone's really on the edge of their seats and anticipating. It's really a somber crowd. We were saying before how enthusiastic they were outside. Definitely a big shift in mood here, but as soon as they get a glimpse of something they might think is some sort of action or the beginning, you hear that cheer again. So when you were asking earlier, will this be a memorial or will it be more exuberant, I really do think we're going to go back and forth, and it's going to be a really emotional 90 minutes. That's how long we're hearing the program set to run. Of course, it could go a little bit long, but 90 minutes is what I'm being told from organizers. Chris?
And what about the official eulogy? Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton?
Definitely hearing about Reverend Al Sharpton for sure doing official eulogy. Jesse Jackson, I believe, is weighing in as well. I saw both of them spending lots of time at the compound yesterday. They were in and out of that driveway countless times. They've been with the family practically daily for all the days they've been in Los Angeles. Remember, Al Sharpton did head back and do that service at the Apollo just shortly after Jackson's death. So they've been really involved with the family. I think we're going to hear some other video tributes as well as the service goes on. Queen Latifah, I was told by organizers, was able to tape something, and we'll hear something from her as well, Chris.
We know that 1.6 million people went online. They wanted tickets. Now, obviously, not every single person could claim them and go over to Dodger Stadium yesterday and get them. Some of them were literally from too far around the world to even get here in time to get those tickets. Is it going to be filled, the Staples Center?
I was just looking around, Chris. That's such an interesting point, and there are definitely some empty seats. Not a ton, though. It looks like, for as difficult as it was to get your hands on this ticket, not just
Why people adore entertainers, it is because of the work. Yes, there's a personal side, but people think about that. And so that's what it points to. I had people who were emailing me who were trying to do their best to get tickets to go to London for one of those concerts. These folks didn't even have passports, but they said they wanted to be at, certainly at one of those concerts. And so that's what it was about. It was simply about the music. And he was indeed, and I think more black folks are probably learning now the kind of barriers that Michael Jackson broke down that they probably didn't know existed when he was alive.
It's interesting, though, when you talk about African Americans and Michael Jackson, because I think that what Roland says about the music is very true. He's right. And I'm not sure there's a lot of CDs you could put on where everyone would clear the floor and start dancing no matter where they're from. But at the same time, the skin tone thing, Michael Jackson never sort of confronted questions as a black man. In fact, while he was surrounded with, and his family was very close to him, but you really didn't hear him say that a lot. I mean, on one hand, he's breaking barriers. It's another one of those contradictions, really breaking barriers for African Americans. Donating massive amounts of money to the United Negro College Fund, close friends with every African-American star. At the same time, there are many people in the black community who say, well, why is he getting whiter and whiter every day? His children are white. He has white children. And I think that while the music has been so incredibly successful and important, it has made people say, that overwhelms any questions you have. His ability, his talent overwhelms any of those questions about his motivations.
I think, particularly Michael's appearance. I mean, when I sat down next to him for close to 2 hours, the appearance is striking, but I don't think it had to do with a struggle with whether he was African American or not. It was more about his own insecurities with facial features and some other things. He told me and was very clear that he was a black man. For instance, he had a long-standing relationship with Ebony and Jet magazine. John H. Johnson, the founder of Ebony, was one of his mentors and helped counsel him on financial issues. He used to come up to the building, he and Janet and the family, when they were 10, 11 years old, and have lunch and read books. So he very much was part of the black community.
I would say that, and he saw himself as part of a global community,
Absolutely. Too. And that's what we saw. We hear and we see the number of people that have come here from Brazil and from London, didn't even have tickets to this event, who just wanted to show up and be here as part of this remembrance. And, you look at the impact he has had in the black community, and that's really a global community.
There's certainly a lot of people sharing their remembrances of Michael Jackson. Everybody has, as Soledad said, has a particular Michael Jackson that they remember, that they hold on to and are remembering on this day. Tom Foreman is monitoring Twitter, seeing a lot of people inside the Staples Center or sending out tweets. Tom, what are you hearing?
Absolutely, Anderson. When you talk about the community of Michael Jackson fans, this is really, you really see them all over the world. People have been posting messages relentlessly about their memories of Michael Jackson, what they're seeing of the service. Many people saying that they skipped work entirely today or skipped school if they were going to summer school. Some people taking their lunch breaks to watch all of this, keep track. Look what some of our CNN people have sent from in the area. Carolyn Sung, one of our folks there, made mention of the fact that there was the heart-shaped floral arrangement outside we mentioned before, and the big heart-shaped sky writing above. There's a picture of it here that she sent as well. You can just make it out there, a heart that was sky written up above the Staples Center there, as many, many people commented on in Twitter who are in the area. Lisa France mentioned that people outside are playing music and dancing to it, and they're passing around photographs and sharing memories outside, people chanting Michael, Michael outside as they wait to get inside. Many more memories as people go inside. Some confusion over the wristbands as people try to get lined up because nobody who had a chance to get inside wanted to miss it, obviously, and the police dealing with the crowd around there. One more thing worth mentioning as we look at all these comments from many, many fans, and I'm telling you, these are all over the world. Many people just writing that they're crying as they think about what's happening today and the events of the past couple of weeks. What a surprise it was. The city of Los Angeles, of course, is dealing with it in a different way, though. They're putting up on their website a plea here for people to help them raise enough money to cover all of this security that seems to be working quite well. Some of the fans not terribly happy about this, but nonetheless, the city of Los Angeles asking people to give to help pay for all of this effort because, as you mentioned earlier, Anderson, California, of course, having a lot of monetary problems, and this is a very, very big event, one of the biggest I've ever seen there. Anderson?
Tom, thanks very much. It was on this stage at the Staples Center just 2 nights before Michael Jackson died that we now have that video where we saw him, their final dress rehearsal, performing. Also, the night before he died, he was on again this very stage on Wednesday night, practicing till about 12:30 a.m. I talked to Randy Phillips, who hugged him goodbye and said that the Michael Jackson he saw at 12:30 on really Thursday morning, the morning of the day he would die, was an optimistic Michael Jackson, a happy Michael Jackson,
healthy
looking forward.
In some ways, he was described as by some also. You know, it's interesting, as we talk here outside the Staples Center, I've sort of gotten used to the drone of the choppers above our heads, and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's just what I can see. It is incredible to know that the presence, the global interest in this story. But I think you're exactly right about that. You know, it is quite a remarkable thing.
Obviously, now Michael Jackson's children are inside the building as well. So is Catherine Jackson, Joe Jackson, the father. Again, Brian, this is a family which has had many problems, a family which is separated in many ways. Joe Jackson and Catherine Jackson live apart. He lives in Vegas. She lives in California. They have been for, I think, about 10 years or so. And yet they are united in this terrible tragedy.
Well, it is sad that it took this tragedy to bring them back together. But they were actually together a few months ago for a celebration of Joe and Catherine's marriage
in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. In fact, their first they said it was their first big anniversary party they'd ever done. So this is a long-standing family that came out of Gary, Indiana. Joe was a steel worker, and Catherine, devout Jehovah's Witness, who was very religious and very spiritual, and in fact raised the children to really honor their families. And even through the struggles, you've heard the reports about how difficult Joe was sometimes in the rehearsals. Michael told me that Joseph would never beat him during the rehearsals, but only afterwards, and then he laughed and giggled. Then he went on to talk about how important Joseph was in teaching him discipline and teaching him how to perform. And he said something to me. He said, "Joseph taught me never let the audience see you cry." And that emotional connection was there. Joseph had his own group called the Falcons when he was growing up. So he learned about staging and learned about performance from that.
And Roland, we heard from Jermaine Jackson on Larry King Live the other day say that he learned that something had happened to Michael Jackson, actually from a call he got from CNN when he was driving. You also talked to one of Michael Jackson's other brothers who told you about the moment he heard about Michael Jackson's death.
Marlon Jackson. He said that his daughter was watching television, and he was upstairs. He now lives in Georgia, and his daughter said, "Dad, they said Uncle Mike is dead." And Marlon said, "Well, that surely can't be true." And he said he then called Frank DeLeo, Michael Jackson's manager, and he confirmed it. And he said that's when he found out. And so when I talked to him, he said that he was walking around in a daze. He was simply stunned to think that he was dead. And in fact, Marlon said the last time most of the family members saw Michael was on May 14th at that family gathering. And he said he was absolutely wonderful. He was sweet. He was there with his children. The reports about him being in a wheelchair, he said it wasn't true. He said he was looking great.
Thank
they
you.
enjoyed it.